My guest today is Charles Wininger, a psychiatrist from New York and an author of the book Listening to Ecstasy, The Transformative Power of MDMA. Our sincere and heartfelt conversation will take you to Charles' personal and professional life, in which he shares a deep soul trauma and how MDMA helped him and his wife to heal the loss. I hope you will enjoy our talk. Give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Charlie, Dr. Love, thank you for coming today. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Sergey. It's great to be here.
Well, you wrote a book recently titled Listening to Ecstasy, in which you speak about your personal relationship with MDMA and how that enhanced your life, your psychotherapy, and maybe you would like to share about this, starting from from your background.
Sure.
Please.
Sure. I am a psychotherapist with 30 years of experience, and I've been a psychonaut for the past 50 years. And the story in the book, Listening to Ecstasy, The Transformative Power of MDMA, is a human story about how my wife and I ventured into the forbidden world of psychedelic drug users back in the early parts of the century and found that world to be enchanted. And the book is about how that opened up our lives to friendship, fun, and freedom. And we learned through our use of MDMA and plant medicines as well, how these powerful medications can open up our world, make our relationship, give a whole other level of connection and joy to our relationship, and help us through the aging process. I'm 72 right now, and my wife just turned 70. And we've learned that MDMA, among other psychedelics, it's helped us navigate the growing older and dealing with all those changes.
Well, that's very interesting. Maybe we can talk about first how you got to it, like in the beginning, and then maybe we can move towards like what is it today and how is it to get older and using psychoactive substances that helps you with. So what was your first experience with MDMA?
My first experience with any psychedelics or with MDMA?
MDMA, let's start from that.
Okay. Well, I done MDMA a few times in the 90s and didn't like it. It didn't work for me. I didn't know about the protocols at the time. I didn't know too much about that. This is not a drug, or I prefer the term medicine, to use alone, in my opinion. And I didn't know about proper hydration and the like. So I'd given it up. And but I was out of my first marriage. I was dating, and I met Shelley in 2000. Matter of fact, this month it's going to be 21 years that we're together. And she was, I was an old, ex-hippie. She was the opposite. She grew up very straight and never so much as finished a joint in her life. And when she met me, she was out of a bad marriage. She wanted to spread her wings. She wanted to try new things, and she wanted to try ecstasy, which was what MDMA was called back in 2000. And I was shocked that she was wanting to do that. But I thought, well, sure, I can guide her with that. And I decided to go out and find some for her. And all this is detailed in the book about how I actually found some pure MDMA back in 2000. It wasn't easy, and and then I decided, okay, what the hell, I'll do it with her. And so we were able to borrow a friend's house in upstate New York in the summertime, and tried it for her the first time. And watching the MDMA come on for Shelley was like watching her come alive, and she'd already been quite alive, but watching her just drop all stress and signs of age actually from her face, and she looked like she was coming to. She looked like she was waking up from a long, long sleep. And it was a great experience for me as well for the first time, because now we knew about hydration and keeping oneself adequately hydrated, and we knew about only using pure MDMA. And so it was a peak experience for us. And I like that term, peak experience, because you can spell peak two different ways. And it was peak, meaning it was a top experience, top level experience for us, but it was also like a peek into heaven. We really thought that we were like trespassing the gates of heaven, and the angel was there shooing us in for a look around. And after an experience like that, Sergey, you're never quite the same again. And so this became quickly Shelley's drug of choice. And since then, we have rolled about 70 times, and either just her and I, or with a group of people, or at a concert or a festival. And we've not had one negative experience. And so over this time, we learned a lot about how it could make our relationship better. And I learned that after a while, I realized that this medicine was speaking to me, and I needed to listen because it had a lot to teach, a whole curriculum, actually. And so I started taking notes, and that's what became the book, Listening to Ecstasy, because I was listening, and
That's
it taught me a lot of things.
that's very interesting. I myself was MDMA lover in my youth.
Mm.
My it was,
Hmm.
well, early 20th. It was like 19, and then years after that, a couple of years. It was certainly my favorite drug. And I never call it a drug, really. I don't like this word, but it's just for lack of better term. And it's like substance, let's call
Yeah.
it a substance. And at that time, I was living in Israel, and we didn't have pure MDMA. It was ecstasy pills. And it was always,
Yeah.
there are many of them, and one better than another, other worse. And, it's hard to get the one that you truly like.
Yes.
And when you get that, you're trying to stockpile for Armageddon with it. But, it was years of, I did a lot of ecstasy pills, and that truly was the drug I truly loved. I can say that from all the synthetics, and I did a lot of drugs, not to escape myself. It was always a
Hmm.
search. It was a spiritual search that I was trying to find my tools to understand myself and the world. And when I got to MDMA, it's like I truly start
Yes.
seeing the magic. This is when I felt like magic is real, but it was a bit out there. but I could peek into it, like you're saying, you know, I could see it. So for me, it was certainly a gateway to where I am today. It was certainly an important episode in my life that led me to plant medicine and where
Yes.
I am today. So I, you know, I'm just doing this podcast to honor this part of my past, basically. Although I don't promote synthetics
Mm.
per se, but MDMA, it can be a very good tool to help people to, you know, to understand themselves and to heal, you know. And if done properly, there can be benefits from that, as it was for me. And it was a healing for me. It was just more, you know, expansion. So maybe you want to share
Yes.
something like, you know, how that changed you, and later how you employ that in your psychotherapy, and what have you seen, what kind of healing have you seen in your clients?
It's changed me, and well, first I'll tell you how it changed me. It over time, it's made me a more compassionate and empathetic person, and also it changed my relationships to my thoughts, just like meditation can do, because I can be somebody who worries a lot, who frets a lot, and who is I have a tendency towards a mild depression.
Mm.
So, and it's all thought driven. So MDMA was teaching me uh, a whole other way of looking at life and looking at my mind. It was teaching me, it said like, hey, you see how good you feel now? Well, take a look at your life, Charlie. All those things you worried about, all those things you were concerned about, all those times you got sick and you thought, uh-oh, this is the end. All those times that you took a financial hit and you thought, uh-oh, I'm going to go bankrupt. How many of those actually turned out that way? How many of the things you thought were going to be horrible really turned out to be horrible? And I started realizing that, yeah, I tend to what they call catastrophize. I tend to take something that is challenging and tend to think the worst of it and go down these negative rabbit holes. And MDMA was teaching me like I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. There's a more positive and happy and optimistic way of looking at life. And when I look at my life, I'm just totally blessed. I've lived in, relative in a country that's at relative peace, although there's many conflicts here in this nation, of course, but we're not currently at war in a way that threatens our existence. We have relative prosperity, and I've been relatively prosperous as a middle class person all my life. I have so much to be thankful for, and I can focus on my blessings instead of my problems. And MDMA was teaching me how to do that. So, to go to the second part of your question about how that affects my psychotherapy practice, I don't do medically assisted psychotherapy. I will help prepare people for psychedelic experiences. I will help them integrate them on the other side of those experiences, but I don't help them through the experience myself. I look forward to the day I can do that, but I don't do that. But it has helped make me a better therapist by making me, like I said, more compassionate and more empathetic and able to come from my heart and able to break down the roles of in the therapy office, like the
Mhm.
old-fashioned roles of I'm the healthy practitioner and you're the sick patient and I'm here to cure you. That's all BS. MDMA has helped me break down those roles, and I'm just one person here in the room with another human being, and I can help guide them, but I have as much to learn as I have to teach. And and what I try to do in these sessions, Sergey, is I try to give my client, and I prefer the word client to patient because it's more peer to peer. I try to give my client the environment, try to provide the environment that MDMA provides for me. In other words, of safety and of well-being and of unconditional love. And those changes over time with MDMA has helped me become a better therapist.
Well, I wish all psychotherapists would take at least MDMA, you know. It would create a much
I think every
healthier.
psychotherapist should. It's part of their
Yeah,
training.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because
Yeah,
it's just like, you know, I have many people who come to us and, you know, saying that, you know, they've been struggling with depression for many years and they've seen therapists for years. And their experience, it's very sad, you know. They're saying like, you know, I've been 5 years with this
yeah,
therapist and 3 years with this one, and nothing really changed. And it's just because what you're saying is because, you know, I personally see a lot of ego involved in it. It's like I'm a therapist and I'm all known and you're sick and I'm listening to you and I'm just prescribing you Prozac or Xanax, you know. It's just not working, you know. It's
yeah,
not real therapy.
yeah, right.
And in fact, I had a therapist here a few years ago. He was from California, also in his probably late 50s, and kind of a renegade psychotherapist, you know. And we had a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
conversation here, heart to heart in ceremony. And he basically said that what happened is that the big pharma actually took therapy out of therapy. That's what he said. It's like there is a
Yeah,
therapy in the
yeah,
therapy. It's just they replace that with medications, and that's, you know, it's good for business, but it's not good for people. So he was very sad about this, and he kind of quit the
yeah,
whole thing. And so definitely would be better if people like you, there will be more people like you who could actually feel the patient from the heart, to see the person in the
yes,
person,
yes.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what MDMA seems help you with. So can you share?
Yes,
uh,
it's a,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I just want to ask you if you can share the story how you became known Dr. Love.
Actually, technically, I became known as the Love Doctor.
The
It's
Love Doctor.
because,
Yeah.
and this is how I met Shelley back in 2000. I was giving lectures around New York and on dating. I was building my practice by finding a niche in dealing with single people. And because I was fresh out of a marriage and I was single myself and I was learning dating skills all over again in my 40s and started teaching what I was learning and giving these courses called the Relation Shop. And so that's somebody from a newspaper here in New York, Newsday, came and covered one of my events where I had about 150 people and then ran a full page spread called with the headline "Just Call Him the Love Doctor," and that's how I got that
Mhm.
name.
So it wasn't connected to MDMA.
It wasn't connected to MDMA, but maybe now you can say it is. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it's certainly the love drug, isn't it?
oh, totally. That's what I thought when I read your
So
book. I thought they called you Love Doctor because you're taking MDMA and doing therapy. So okay, that makes sense. You know?
ah ah
Totally
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
You know?
Okay, well,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe I didn't make that clear.
yeah, well, maybe for me, you know,
Yeah.
I was kind of reading fast through the book just to, you know, get a feel of it. I
Okay.
didn't read the whole thing, which I recommend people
Sure.
to. Certainly, it's well
Sure.
written, sincere, good account of a person, you know, coming out from the kind of hiding, you know. And would you like to
Yes.
share
That's
some?
part of what the book is about.
Yeah. Exactly. Would you like to share some, healing stories on people you have seen, met, assisted, yourself? Anything that you can say that, yes, that helped me a lot?
I can share with you a story that is very, very personal and intimate about a personal tragedy that my wife and I suffered in May of this year, back on May 13th.
Please, if you feel comfortable.
If you're open to that,
Sure. If you feel comfortable.
um, sure, it's a little tender for me, but bear with me if you would. Uh, we are just a little background here. We're considered elders in the local psychedelic community here in New York, and uh, so we've been hosting group experiences for the past 15 years, and using MDMA. But we had one planned for May 22nd of this year. But on May 13th, excuse me, Shelley lost her son, my stepson. We still don't know why. The results of the autopsy aren't still aren't in. He was 39 years old. Shelley, of course, was completely devastated, but not for 1 minute did she doubt that she would go ahead with the role that we'd planned for the 22nd of May. Um, Before Scott's death, we were just looking forward to it, and she was looking forward to it as usual. But afterwards, she knew she needed it. And so on that day in Prospect Park here in Brooklyn, we had 40 friends join us. They had RSVP'd many, a few months before. People of all ages, from all walks of life, and from all over the country. And as usual, we spent an exquisite day together in the park. To everyone else in the park, it looked like a bunch of friends having a picnic. But earlier in the week, Shelley put out the word to everyone that what had happened to her, and that she requested a healing circle at some point during the day. She wanted it not just for herself, but for anyone else who needed it as well. So that day, in the middle of our MDMA excursion with all 40 of us in the park, we convened a circle. And picture this: everyone was sitting on the ground except for Shelley and I in one part of the circle. We were in chairs because at our age we can't sit on the ground for hours at a time without hurting our butts. So we had chairs. Everyone else was sitting on the ground. And one by one, people were sharing their losses. And one older guy spoke of losing his mom that past week. And when he shared about it, he said, I really just feel like this grief is too painful. I feel like screaming. And I thought to myself at that moment, oh, please don't scream here in the middle of Prospect Park. We're going to get too much
Attention.
unwanted attention. Um, but Shelley saw a pillow on the ground, threw it at him, and he said, scream into that. And I thought, I'm a psychotherapist. Why didn't I think of this? But anyway, this man screamed with all his might, a cathartic scream right into that pillow, and we all cheered because it was clearly so healing and cathartic for him. Um, and others spoke and about their losses. And then it was Shelley's turn. And she took out a framed photo that somebody had made for her, an enlarged photo of her son, and showed it to the group and started crying. She spoke of how her son had been in pain all his life. Great mental anguish, this poor guy. He was in mental hospitals in and out of mental hospitals as a teenager. And in the past few years, he was in great physical pain as well. And she was done, and then I spoke. And I said to her, everyone could hear, but I was saying it directly to her. I said, Shelley, what I didn't share with you until now is that the day Scott died, which was 9 days before, I felt his presence there in the living room. He was smiling. He was sending love to you and to me. And he said, I'm free. And it was then that my wife burst like a dam and broke into the deepest sobs. And as she was lost in that, you have to understand, everyone was rolling, right, on MDMA. As she was lost in those tears, everyone huddled in close, touching her legs, her head, her arms. She cried for the longest time, but by the time she quieted down and lifted her head and opened her eyes, she saw and felt this swelling human wave of love, 40 people strong, washing over her, flooding her with their collective healing energy, sending it right into her body. And it was then, she said afterwards, she said, that's the moment my healing really began. And it was a transformative moment for all of us, actually. And afterwards, and Shelley, it's what, 2 months now since then, and almost, and Shelley still says, that's the moment my healing began. And someone who was there wrote an email afterwards that said, I never want to go to a traditional wake or funeral again after seeing this kind of alternative. And I'm thinking, yeah, like, what would it be to live in a world where instead of going to a wake or funeral and then, back to the house where people are drinking and just eating, sugar-filled foods to numb the pain. What if we lived in a world where instead people would get together in a group, do this medicine together, and for the purpose of sending healing energy into the person who most feeling the loss. And that's the kind of world I picture. And I think it's coming. Actually, it's already here, isn't it? So I'd wanted to share that with you. And thank you for listening.
Well, Charlie, that's a very heartbreaking story, First of all, please accept my condolence. And, I really wish your wife find the strength and love within herself to continue and to
Thank you.
overcome that in a dignified manner,
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful
Thank
healing
you.
story that definitely deserve to be shared with people, That's just my personal recommendation. for another book or something if you write.
She loves sharing the. She loves. Yeah,
I would include that.
yeah. She loves sharing this story to anyone who will listen. It's healing for her to share the story and recall that day. And I don't think she ever felt so loved by a group of people in her life.
Are you aware of MAPS research on MDMA?
Yes.
Um, I'm just I'm just having a feeling now that it would be of great importance for the cast to share the story with them and include that
Hmm.
in their curriculum, if you will, and to show what it does in real life, and see how that can be integrated and help to, you know, decriminalize MDMA therapy. That's a powerful story that can
Yeah.
contribute to
Yeah.
this. And I also heard that they are looking for credible psychotherapists to work with MDMA. And it seems to me that you would be a great candidate if that's something you would like. But it's just something to connect and see what's there for each of you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. No, that's a good idea to connect with maps. And I know Rick Doblin very well. And I think he or certainly the website would be interested in a story like this. And
Absolutely.
uh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can move to a little bit other subject because it's a bit too heavy. So let's maybe
Hmm.
talk about.
Sure.
Well, we can talk about a few things. When I was using ecstasy in my youth, I always struggle with the side effects, with the hangout. It's always been a beautiful night followed by 3, maybe 5 days, maybe a week of kind of gray, like
Mm.
depleted state of being. And then I didn't know why. And then I researched later and I realized that MDMA work with serotonin and kind of depletes that.
Yes.
So,
Well, it's not only that. And there's a chapter in the book about how to beat the what they call the Tuesday blues. Um, and you mentioned maps in their studies with people who've suffered from PTSD. No one has yet reported having this negative after effect. And in Shelley and my 70 experiences, we've not yet suffered from the Tuesday blues. I don't want to blame people who, like yourself, who have suffered from it, but actually, you hit on it a little earlier. You were taking these pressed pills mostly, and so as you no doubt know that now, one must only do pure MDMA. We only use pure. We always test it. We won't buy it unless we test it. And and we have a scale, of course, to measure it exactly. We're very moderate in our dose, and we'll boost in the middle of it, but we boost moderately. At our age, especially, we need to do that. We keep well hydrated. I sleep it off that night. And I mean, really sleep it off. I mean, I'm 72 years old. I'll sleep 10, 11 hours and wake up feeling wonderful and with an afterglow. And I eat well. We take 5-HTP, which is an over the counter supplement that helps replace the serotonin. We do all these things very rigorously to make sure that we're safe and we do it right. Because otherwise, at our age, we turn into a negative experience, and it's too precious an experience for us to overdo it. So and we don't do it too often. We'll do this about 4, 5, or 6 times a year,
every two
never
months,
more
something
than
like that.
that.
So you're using MDMA like a pure powder in capsules.
Correct.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't have that. It was
It's the
just
only time we'll do it.
pressed pills, which you don't know what it could be speed in it. It could be whatever. It's like you never know what you take, you know. You
There's
just
a
don't.
wonderful organization which you've probably heard of called Dance Safe, dancesafe.org, that will analyze that pill for you. And
Mhm.
they used to put the picture of the pill on their website and tell you what's in it, or they'll analyze it for you personally. And but they sell testing kits as well, and we have a testing kit, of course, and that you can get. Not It's not expensive, and it's legal to get,
Mhm.
and we're very careful with that.
I remember
You need
even
to be.
going to Amsterdam in search for better pills, you know, in my youth. I said, okay,
Yeah,
I got it all. I ate all the pills I have here in Israel. You know, they have it in
yeah,
Amsterdam, so I go there and see what's there. And you know, it's pretty much it's a similar thing. I mean, you still get that hangover, you know, and it's like at some point, I was tired by that, you know, by the hangover.
yeah. Sure,
It's,
absolutely.
it's like
And
hard.
this is why so many. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I finished.
This is why so many people maybe start their psychedelic exploration with MDMA and then leave MDMA because it stops working for them, or the negative
Yeah.
downside afterwards is just too painful, and then they move on to plant medicines and the like. And what I like to do, and I mean, I love psilocybin, I love ayahuasca, I love LSD, um, but I also want to call people back to MDMA, uh, because it has other lessons to teach you at this later stage in your life. You know, when you were doing it at 18 or 20 or 25 years old, it might have been great for the purposes, the recreational purposes. And I love recreational purposes. I'm all for them. But when one is 35 or 45 or 55 or 65, it can speak to you in a whole different way. I, I liken it to reading a novel when you're a teenager and then picking the book up
Later.
25 years later and realizing, oh, this is a different book than I remember. It can speak to you in a whole different way because you have so much of yourself, more of yourself to bring to it.
Yes, completely agree with you. There is time to revisit good things, you know, and how you feel doing this now in your age, in your senior age. Like you're probably already looking at the sunset, you know, sunset of your life at some
I'm
point,
looking at what? I'm sorry?
a sunset of your
I'm,
life.
oh, the sunset.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it's like not right around the corner. But yes, it's true.
Yeah.
I do deal with my mortality, and looking at the fact that in the hourglass there's more sand at the bottom than on the top, and I have found that MDMA has helped me with transitioning into this stage of life and into facing my mortality. And it does that in many ways. One way is that Shelley and I look at each other and we realize we're getting older, and we have all these aches and pains, uh, and we can't party like we used to, and all this type of thing, and our body is getting more limited, but we are so secure in the knowledge that we have fully lived our lives, especially since we met 21 years ago. We have no regrets about the way we have lived. And it's not like we're going to be on our deathbed one day and think, oh, I wish I had done this and I wish I had done that. We've done it all, and we've had a blast. and a very deep time of healing, like I just described, and growth and connection between the two of us. So MDMA has helped me face mortality by helping me realize that I've lived fully and I've lived a full life. And also it teaches me at least about letting go and embracing the moment, whatever it entails, and the importance of connection. The way I would like to die, and who knows if I will have my wish or not, is slowly, so that I can say goodbye to everyone, and on my deathbed be surrounded by my best friends and family members. That's the way I want to go, and uh, because it's for me, it's all about community. And one of the worst parts about growing old for a lot of people, especially in the United States, is they get more and more isolated, and their world becomes more smaller. And that's not our experience. We're making sure that that we have community around us, because that's our lifeblood. That's what keeps us vital and young.
So if MDMA become decriminalized and people start using it, would you apply? Would you practice that? Would you give it to your clients, or are you still practicing psychotherapy?
I would force feed it to them. Uh, no, not really. I would strongly recommend if when it becomes legal and I can administer it to my clients, I certainly will be very happy. I could do, half my practice is couples, Sergey. I could do 6 months worth of couples therapy in a day with MDMA, and I certainly look forward to that.
So you're practicing currently?
I consider in my practice, yeah, I look forward to the day I can do that. And I call it the chemical of connection, because
Yes.
it connects us to ourselves and to each other and to the world at large and to nature and to the cosmos. And certainly, when it comes to relationships and romantic relationships, it's really MDMA serves as emotional superglue. Really bonds people together.
That's
And it
very
has
true.
added a whole.
I remember that from my time. I was, I had that problem. I was like falling in love easily. I was like, breaking heart all the time. It's like you lose your appetite, you don't eat, you don't sleep over a girl you met on the street in a bus station somewhere. It was just crazy in my youth. So in a sense, I was looking for a
Yeah.
cure to cure my romanticism, So when I got to MDMA, I thought, okay, that might do, but it's actually gotten worse, because when you do MDMA with someone you like, I mean, there is so much connection, there is so much. I mean, you fall in love deeper, even more hopelessly. So I had to go through all this chapter in my life.
Yes. Well, that's an interesting point, because it can, and I've had this experience at parties where I'd make a connection with somebody that I thought was deep and profound and I thought would last, but it was really the MDMA talking.
Yes.
And it didn't last. And it can be deceptive in that way.
Yes.
So I know what you're saying. And, uh, as you know, with psychedelics, it's all about set and setting. And the most important part of your setting, in my opinion, is who you are with. And so if you're doing it if you're doing MDMA with a person who is of the gender that you're attracted to, or just the person you're attracted to. Forget about gender. You're sexually attracted to them. You're romantically attracted to them, but it might not be mutual. It can be risky to do MDMA together because it can give you both the experience of falling in love that might not last into
The
the
next
next
morning.
day.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
What happened to our
So
love?
you
I
do
mean,
have to be
yesterday,
careful.
yesterday I thought you're my woman,
Yeah.
today I don't feel that anymore. It's just,
Right. Yeah.
it's like everything is
Yeah.
magical, and the next morning it's like there is a great distance between us. So you just learn to move through this.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, that's a very personal thing. If you don't feel like saying, we just move on. But how MDMA affected your intimate relationship with your wife in terms of being close, being sexual to each other? Do you feel like it enhanced, it got you
Ah,
closer, and you move through this kind of aging thing and kind of losing the sexual drive and passion and all this?
well, I'll share a secret with you.
Okay.
Um, the this is just our experience. I don't know about other people's experience, but we found a magic potion to keep our sex life alive. When I met Shelley, she was premenopausal, and then she went through menopause, and we got sad because we thought the hot
So,
sex that we had was going to fade. And then Shelley discovered cannabis, and she uses cannabis in a certain way. She uses it to focus on. We always make love with music, and we always make love. We have take a lot of time, and she uses the cannabis to enhance her sexual feelings. And she is actually, and she's very open about this, so I can share it with you. She's more orgasmic than ever, and she's 70 years old, and I'm 72. And when she's hot, it's contagious. Makes me hot. Uh, and so when we're rolling, it's hard for, as you may know, for many men to get or keep an erection on MDMA, or to have an orgasm. What I have found is that towards the end of the roll, when the MDMA is ebbing and starting to leave my body, if I then smoke or vape some sativa, um, with Shelley, we call it sextasy, the
mhm.
combination of sativa and coming down from a roll, and we have a blast. It's the happiest part of the whole experience for us.
Well, that's very beautiful, and very hopeful too, because I remember when I was younger, I was looking at my grandparents thinking, are they still having sex? I mean, what will happen when I'm there? I mean, life wouldn't be the same without it,
Yeah,
so it's very good to
right,
hear that
right.
the passion is continuing, and, the connection is
It
there, and
doesn't have to die.
it doesn't have. That's very beautiful. That's very important. That's a good message to other people who are aging and maybe, on earlier stages, that, it's not all over for you when you enter menopause. There's a whole new world out there. You just need to
That's right.
find the tools.
That's right.
And, I always love to smoke cannabis on top of ecstasy. It was very good. So
Hmm.
there's a lot to be used to maintain happiness. And certainly, if that's something good that elevates your spirit and keep you young, then do it. Just do it wisely. Do it. Follow the protocol, as you say. So what would you like to share with people who love
That's the
MDMA?
key.
What would you like to share? How would they use it best?
Well, uh, to I would like to tell people or remind them because they might already know that as we have found, play, fun, and joy can in themselves be transformative experiences. Anyone who's attended a good all-night rave knows this. Anyone who's attended a good festival or has simply rolled with a bunch of good, well-selected friends knows this. It can be transformative, and don't ever apologize for using plant medicine or MDMA recreationally, although I think a better word for it would be celebrationally.
Mhm.
It doesn't, you can use it for healing, absolutely, because these are very versatile compounds. You can use it to heal trauma, you can use it to heal many things, but don't apologize for or look down upon people who use it celebrationally, because these can be transformational experiences. And I would always want to tell people not to forget that because MDMA, for example, is just so incredibly versatile and can be used in all these ways.
That's very good advice, really. There is nothing wrong with being happy. That's what we'll want at the end of the day anyway. So whatever brings you there is good.
Yes, especially, and of course, then the work is, as you know, the work in these experiences has to do with the integration afterwards. How do you integrate this joy and
Right.
celebration into your day-to-day life? And how do you turn these states into personal traits and integrate them into your personality? And that's part of what my book is about. That's what I've been learning. And MDMA and other medicines are still teaching me.
So were you writing on on the MDMA or in between?
No, the only drug I ever used to write is very, very dark chocolate.
Cacao?
Yes,
I just,
yes, I 100% raw cacao. It doesn't taste good, but it sure has a great effect,
I
and
know.
it's good for writing.
I just had a bunch before
And
our talk today, so I still have
haha,
it in my
so did I.
cacao is good, and a cup of good coca tea that makes
Yes,
things going well.
yes,
Because
yes.
I ask you
It's
because I wrote a lot on MDMA. It was my favorite time. Just me expressing myself, writing. It was poetry. It was just thoughts. And I found that I started at raving, and then I moved away from this into more secluded environment, just by myself in the forest under the moon, reading Omar Khayyam or Rumi.
mm,
It was like very
mm,
much. I really went there into the Sufi, esoteric world in MDMA to understand, to feel their wisdom, and sitting there in the forest crying, you know,
mm.
feeling
Sounds
the
beautiful.
feeling the wisdom that coming through centuries at you. So that was my
Mm,
fun, you know. But of course, it was great
I
sharing
love
with
it.
people too. So I want to ask you, you mentioned earlier about this catastrophizing. How would you, what would you say to people like who have this problem? Because many do. I know this myself. I'm that person too. I mean, for me, everything the end of the world. So how to deal with it for people? What tools, like psychological tools, you can give to people? Maybe suggestions. If you have that, how to calm down, how to break through this, so at least have a relief.
Mm. Well, Good question. I spoke a moment ago about integration, and certainly the best integration tool I know of, I'm sure you know of too, and your audience I'm sure knows, is meditation. And MDMA, I believe, prepares the mind for meditation. And um, uh, using the MDMA experiences and the memory of the MDMA, the physical memory in my body, and integrating that into my meditation practice has helped me alter my relationship to my thoughts. The thoughts still come, the catastrophizing thoughts still come because it's just a habit of my mind. They'll always be there. But now I catch them sooner, realize, okay, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I don't have to go down there. These thoughts in my long history have taught me, and I've learned that these thoughts 99% of the time don't come to fruition. They don't come true. And I can remember that right now. And I can realize that I don't have to believe everything I think. I
Hmm.
can just have the thought and watch it go in my head and out my head. And then the next thought comes, and these thoughts come and go. They rise and fall. And I don't have to take them oh so seriously.
Yeah, we're talking about detachment from thoughts process, like observing your thoughts as the observing eye.
Observing my thoughts instead of being lost in them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, not always it's easy, but it's certainly effective, and I can attest to it.
It takes practice.
Yeah.
It takes practice and memory and remembering that, okay, I've been down this road before. Has these worst case scenario thoughts ever come true? Well, maybe once 20 years ago or something, but usually no, they don't come true. And I can remember that in the moment.
It's all come down to awareness, I guess. When you're aware in the moment, you can see yourself. You can separate from your thoughts. But when you all,
Yes.
swallowed in a sleep-like trance, then you are your thoughts, and then you believe everything that is happening in your head. So it's a practice. That's
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 right.
why
And
that's why I personally advocate for merging or merger of psychedelics with spirituality. None of them
yes,
separately, not enough. Like personally, after lifelong of searching and doing, and I see a tremendous benefit of studying spiritual traditions and bringing them and filtering them through psychedelic experience. And that's how you integrate that. That's how you understand what works and what not. You know.
yes, and I would add a third element in that, which is community and communication. I notice that when I go down these rabbit holes, when I have these negative thoughts, I'm tending to keep them to myself.
Mm.
And as a friend, my brother actually once said to me, the mind is a dangerous neighborhood. Don't go there alone. So when I remember that, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call a friend and share these thoughts with them and let them know what's going on with me. And that also helps me come out of it.
That's a very good advice, and that's why I, joined and supported Thank You Plant Medicine movement, because it's a movement of people who love plant medicine, psychedelics, and it's a platform where people can share and integrate. It's a very dynamic and sincere and real opportunity for people to not to go into a dangerous neighborhood alone.
Yes, we
Yeah,
all need each other.
definitely.
We need each other very, very much. And boy, did we find this out in the last 14, 15 months, right? How
Wow.
much we need each other.
Yeah, and how much we need psychedelics. You know?
Both. That's
But,
right. Yes.
but if someone was doubting before, those doubts should be evaporating right now.
Well,
And I wouldn't make it
well
through
said.
if I wouldn't have all this cactus here to chew.
Yeah, yeah,
I would be
yeah.
probably crazy right now. I maintain my
I know
sanity,
what you mean.
you know. Well, it was a very interesting
Yes.
talking to you. And if you like to share anything at the end, please do.
Well, sure. I invite people to go to listening to ecstasy.com, and they can get in touch with me that way if they wish. They can go to the Simon and Schuster website and type in listening to ecstasy, and which is now available in the audio version, where I am the narrator of that, and or the print version. And I invite anyone of your audience to reach out to me if you want to connect. I'm happy to hear from you. And Sergey, I really appreciate you having me on and having this opportunity to share with you and your audience about these things. It's meaningless to me without sharing it. So thank you
Uh,
very much, and thank you for doing this work.
Thank you, Charlie. It's my pleasure. It's my honor to do this. It's something I believe in and something I do from my heart. So, and it's
I can
great
tell.
to see people in senior age like you who have not got old in spirit. You might aged, but you have retained the youth. And that's very inspiring and that's beautiful. And I salute you for that and thank you for being there.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah.